Hello and welcome back to TCG Inform. So in the last video I showed off the Libromancer Mitsurugi deck profile, so let's go on to its guide. As always, 3 advantages, 3 disadvantages, a sample combo, and some finishing notes at the end. So without further ado, let's jump right in. So advantages for this deck specifically. Advantage number 1, this deck is really tough to pinpoint. Because since you're using both a Libromancer and a Mitsurugi strategy, they won't know which part of it to hit. So if you have a good hand, you can bait out your opponent by using, if your opponent doesn't know, you can bait out your opponent using your Libromancer cards, and then go straight in, and then if you have the cards for it, go into a Mitsurugi combo when you realize they won't have enough to break through a Mitsu combo. This deck is very tough to pinpoint where it needs to negate or not negate, at least to testing for my advantage number 2. This deck is a good going second game thanks to the Libromancers. Most of the Libromancers are good going second, like basically the rituals. These are good starters, and you have rituals such as Doombroker, which if you use a monster on the field as a ritual, you can attack directly. And it can shuffle a card back if it's attacked directly. Mystigal is a Lost Wind on a monster effect, is Lost Wind on a summon effect, and if you are able to, which you can if you use a full Libromancer combo, go Libromancer Bonded from a Libromancer Firestarter and a card in hand, for example, into a Fireburst. Fireburst then cannot be destroyed, banished, can make 2 attacks. It cannot be destroyed or banished by card effects, can make 2 attacks in a row, and any battle damage it takes is doubled, while also being able to gain attack thanks to its 200. While also having an attack buffer in Origin Story, which will then buff it up by, I think, 700 or more, and will pop a spell trap when ritual summoned. So this deck is a really good going second game with the Libromancers, but the Mitsu are still pretty good going second, but I'm more recommended going first. Advantage number 3. This deck is very, very noob friendly. In a way, the combos are very linear. The combos are linear with both sides of the pile, and this main combo you use can be interchangeable few and far between, and I'll tell you how you can interchange that combo within the sample at the end. So yeah, this deck is noob friendly. Now, onto our disadvantages. Disadvantage number 1. This deck can't run a lot of non-engine because of how your deck works. By non-engine I mean hand traps, sorry. So for at least this deck list, I think there was 3 Ash Blossom, 3 Imperm, and 1 Cool Buy as just a mainline package for the deck. If we want to go a little bit pedantic and want to say all non-engine, then yes, you are playing pre-preps. You are playing pre-preparation of Rites and a Night Sword Serpent, but those technically are pieces for ritual and more. If we're going counter strategies, you do not have a lot to work with. Disadvantage number 2. This deck's end boards aren't big. They aren't big or extravagant or anything. They're pretty small. The most interruptions you're putting up with this deck, like with just the combo I will show you, will be about 3 interruptions specifically. 3 interruptions on their own without any hand traps in your opening hand if you're lucky. So yeah, not the best building a board, but is still good as it is. Still a not bad end board, but compared to others, not good. And disadvantage number 3, this deck can be a bit bricky. Truth be told, you really only need as long as one of your starters is a Habakiri or a Geek Boy, or a Geek Boy in a ritual, or a Fire in a ritual, you can still sort of combo off, but it's very, very weird. It's very weird. So yeah, this deck is bricky, but there are a good amount of starters to make it feel like the brick isn't detrimental. So let's get on to our sample combo, shall we? Now for this sample combo, cards in our hand will be a Libromancer Fire and a Habakiri. and a Mitsurugi Habakiri. So, let's go. So this sample combo, we will first off activate our Libromancer Fire, revealing a ritual from our hand to special summon itself. When it is special summoned, it will add a Libromancer monster directly from our deck to our hand in Libromancer Geek Boy. We then will activate our Libromancer Geek Boy, revealing the same ritual, Summon Geek Boy. Geek Boy will then activate its effect to grab a Libromancer spell in the form of... Not Mirror, sorry, that's the wrong spell. Sorry, the spell we are actually after is Libromancer Origin Story. There we are. Sorry, that took a bit. Libromancer Origin Story. We will then activate our Libromancer Origin Story to set a Libromancer spell or trap directly from our deck. We will set the field spell, Libromancer First Appearance. We will then activate our first appearance to add a Libromancer monster directly from our deck to our hand. And none of this locks us, by the way. So we'll grab Doombroker. We will then activate our Libromancer First Appearance, tributing both of our Libromancers on the field for a Doombroker. Now, Doombroker will have its effect activate to set a Libromancer trap from our deck in the form of Libromancer Intervention. And a fun thing that the first appearance can do is it can tribute Mitsurugis for the summon of a Libromancer, since it says equal to or exceed. So if you just want to get a rotor of a Mitsu, you can, but I wouldn't recommend it mostly. Now that's the Libromancer part, we will activate our Ame no Habakiri no Mitsurugi in our hand, revealing it for the third time in a row. Revealing it for the third time to summon a Mitsu and tribute a Mitsu. Of course, we all know the combo. Summon a Saji and tribute the Saji. Saji effect will add a Mitsu spell trap. Grab Ritual, activate the Ritual, special summoning the Habakiri by sending 2. Now, there are 2 cards you can go for here, and it will be dependent on your hand. I'll go with the ones I normally go for, being Kusanagi and Aramasa. And then what we'll activate here is CL1 Aramasa and CL2 Kusanagi. Kusanagi will add back that ritual from our grave, and Aramasa will add us a Mitsurugi monster in the form of Futsu. We will then activate the effect of Libromancer Ritual, tributing the Futsu in our hand to summon out a Murakumo. Futsu will then have its effect activate in the graveyard. When it is tributed, add a Mitsu card, but since it was not summoned correctly, it will not summon itself, but we'll add Mitsurugi Mirror. We will then activate our Mirror, which can summon a Mitsurugi from hand or grave, tributing our Habakiri to summon back the Futsu. We will then go effect of Habakiri in the graveyard to add, of course, the trap, being Great Purification, and we summon our Habakiri. We then set the Great Purification and pass our turn over to our opponent with this end board. Interruptions with no hand traps. You have 1 negate in Libromancer Intervention. You have a negate of a card or effect by returning a Libromancer to the hand in your Doombroker, and you summon back a Libromancer in Fire to then add a monster back, You then also have, of course, Great Purification, tributing Murakumo. Murakumo adds a Mitsu and will summon itself. Again, pop all monsters on their board. So that's 2 negates. You then have a card which makes them have to discard to negate. And yeah, That's all the real interruption you have. Now, I did say something when we added when we got the Futsu from the Aramasa tribute. If you don't want to tribute Aramasa, sorry, you can tribute a card called Night Sword Serpent. You can tribute the Night Sword Serpent if you have a way of getting, if you have monsters in your hand that you can tribute instead of the 2 Libromancers. You can tribute 1 Libromancer from the field and keep 1 on the board, summon the Night Sword Serpent and make a link to, if that's a different way you want to go. If not, you don't have to. You are completely fine with this board. Now, some finishing notes. As shown here, this deck is pretty Nibiru reliant. The opponent does not have Nibiru. But if you get Murakumo out, then they will have to discard to activate that. They will have to discard to activate the Nibiru. And since it tributes, you can summon back the Murakumo, since you did not use it for the tribute of your Haba. You did not use it for the tribute of your Futsu to summon with Mira. You used Habakiri, which is how that would work. You can then summon back the Murakumo and still have a negate online with Great Purification, which means you will still have a negate and a discard to negate online. I know that's not much, but it's still a good survival plan. And then if your opponent does a Kaiju, you'll still be able to summon back again. And then they just give you an extra body if they Kaiju it. So yeah, that's all for this one. Anyways, like, subscribe, comment if you want to see something, and I'll see y'all in the walk.